Good afternoon. We've spent 2 days talking about the business of soccer. That's the boring stuff. This is the real stuff. We're talking about the game, and specifically this incredible thing that's happened in the sport of goalkeepers and the positioning of the goalkeepers, this whole sweeper keeper thing that's going on. Could not have two better folks to represent the goalkeeper industry. The great Shaka Hislop is to my left. Almost 400 First Division appearances in the Premier League. Reading, Newcastle United, West Ham, 2006 World Cup, Trinidad and Tobago. Shaka Hislop, everyone. And you could also see him on ESPN FC many days of the week, right?
Yeah.
Many days of the week.
Every night.
On the end, for those of you who are Reds fans, not the Cincinnati Reds, but Liverpool, you may know of the great Bruce Grobbelaar, 1981 to 1994, over 600 appearances for the Reds in goal. Kind of one of the great players in the club's history. They won. He had 32 caps for his home country, Zimbabwe. 6-time English Division I champion. 3 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, and of course the 1984 European Cup. Bruce Grobbelaar. I'm Jason Wormser. I'm a sports television producer, soccer producer, and executive. I was at ESPN and Fox Sports for many years, done multiple World Cups, and have covered the sport. We've had just about everything under our purview. Gentlemen, let's start. Shaka. Well, let's start with Bruce. Bruce, the position of goalkeeping when you came up and as you were at Liverpool and the height of your career, what was it like? What were the demands of the position and the challenges of the position?
Well, the challenges for myself was actually coming out of Africa. And the challenges went from Africa to the UK, UK to Vancouver, Vancouver back to the UK. But when I eventually got to Liverpool, I learned my journey on the way. And the journey was that you are a goalkeeper first and foremost. You stop the ball going in the back of the net. And if you can get to the ball quicker than that player coming toward you, you go and deal with it. Was it a sweeper keeper role? In essence, yes, it was. But in reality, it was to get there first and then clear it. So the involvement of goalkeepers today is something that we have to look up very cynically as a goalkeeper, because a goalkeeper's first and foremost criteria is to stop the ball going in the back of the net.
Shaka, when you made your way to England, this was they just changed the rule, if it did, on the back pass early, like 1992. How did that change, kind of begin the change of the dynamic of the position?
I think that, so 1992 was my first year in professional football as well. Joined Reading in 92 and having to deal with that back pass rule. I think the expectation, certainly early on once the rule changed, didn't really live up to reality, because you have this whole group of centre-backs and defenders who didn't like to receive the ball short, who didn't want to get the ball with facing their own goal. And so once the ball came back to me, they all just turned and started running up the pitch, and the expectation was that I would kick it long. And you know, so even the option of playing it out that most goalkeepers use today just was not there. Defenders didn't want it, they didn't expect it, they turned their back on you, you just had to go long. So that, I think, kind of changed the dynamic of the position, in that when the ball came back to you, how you would deal with it, because gone are the days where you just sit or pick it up and everybody resets and you go again. The ball had to be in continual play, but that just forced the goalkeepers to kick longer more times than they normally would.
Bruce, when you were starting and then at your height in the 80s, the rules were different in terms of the sport. I mean, it's not like today where a keeper grabs the ball and might get a little dink and he falls to the ground, foul, right? The whistle blows. Give us a story or two about the times that you had and kind of the how different it was.
Well, in those days, yes, you'd go to the opposition, and if you went to the likes of Wimbledon, for instance, the crazy gang, they would look at you coming through the dressing room, and they'll say, "We'll see you on the far post." That meant when the cross comes over, and I'm going up for a far post, I'm going to be hit by two of them, and there will be one person in front in case I drop the ball. And that's how it was in those days. You talk about the rules of goalkeepers. I came in 1981. The rules changed every second year up until 1992 when Shaka came to the UK, and there were different rules for the goalkeeper on how he had to, when he received the ball. Yes, we caught the ball in my early days, could bounce it around till the end of the area and launch it. Then it came, one time it was, you could, once you got it in your hands, 5 seconds for you to release the ball. Then it changed again. Once you got it in as a back pass, you couldn't pick it up. So it changed for goalkeepers constantly through my first 10 years. And when Shaka came, that is when they had the rules. Yes, the header back to the goalkeeper you can have. Nowadays, it's just, if you can play it out of the back with your feet, you can do that. But here's the thing. You can do it as an elite player. Do not tell your kids to do it as juniors, because I don't care how it is in the junior football or in the senior football. If you lose the ball in that box as a goalkeeper, you are going to be pounced upon by the press, your manager, your players, and you're going to be going back with your tail between your legs. So for people out there that are coaches for young kids, if you get a goalkeeper to pass the ball anywhere in and around the box, if he gets the ball back to you, just launch it into the area. Don't try and play it around here. You're not an Allison or you're not a Edison in the Premier League.
Sure. So I think of, when is the timeline? When do things really change? And it seems to me that Joe Hart was so successful at Man City. He's a Premier League winner, played on the national team. Here comes Pep Guardiola, rolls into town and says, Joe, thank you. You can go over here.
Yeah.
It basically ruined his career? And I think it did.
Well, I wouldn't say it ruined his career. I think Joe Hart before that had an outstanding career to boast on and continue to stand on, still playing with Glasgow Celtic. I think it certainly changed how he was perceived at that level of the game and had to take a huge step back. But at the same time, remember, Pep didn't get that right straight away.
Right.
His first goalkeeper signing after Joe Hart was Claudio Bravo,
right,
who he worked with at Barcelona and was building out to the back. But then the pace of the English game, Claudio Bravo just simply didn't adjust to. So even though trying to do some of these similar things, same things that he was doing at Barcelona, he couldn't do in the Premier League just because of the pace of the game. And then came Edison, and everything just kind of clicked in terms of who would be Pep's long-term goalkeeper. So to Bruce's point, that playing out of the back, especially the way that Pep wants it, it's a very specialist art that not everyone can do. Edison is the best at it. I think he's the best at it because of his passing range. He has a passing range that I don't think any other goalkeeper in the league has. He's not the shot stopper that an Allison is, or some of the other
Courtois.
He's not the shots. And if you look at his statistics, he's not. But he's the perfect fit for what Pep wants to play. And I think the benefit to that, and again, because of his passing range, and you see this with other teams who try to pass the ball out to the back, if you press City too high up the park, he would just drill a 60-yard ball over the top of you. So you cannot press with all 10 outfield players against Man City. You could do that against most other teams in the league because other goalkeepers don't have that passing range. So more and more you're seeing teams getting themselves in trouble. And for all the kind of evolution and the talk about City and Pep and Edison, again, that is a one-off, that's a unique situation. And maybe Bruce and I are old school, but to Bruce's point, I believe that goalkeepers are still judged by how many goals they concede. And while we could talk about how good they are with their feet and their passing range and everything else, ultimately it's how many get by you that makes or breaks you.
You know, Bruce, you've seen at Liverpool the change in dynamic with the way Klopp plays, and he's on the front foot. He's the forward press, constantly pressing. Did you notice it took a little bit of time for Klopp to get his ideas across from the back to the front with the goalkeeper, or is this just like, because it's a complete transformation from other managers they've had in the past?
Listen, we've had some goalkeepers that have actually been hung out to dry. We had a goalkeeper there. He played a game in the European Cup. We lost to Carriers,
Right?
Yeah.
Carriers,
Yeah.
and they hung him out to dry. For me, that was a bad thing to do. Okay, he went on to go to Turkey and play in Turkey. He's come back, and he's now with Newcastle
Right.
as their number 2 or number 3. Now, for a young lad like that, what I think that they should have done is put his arm around him and just gave him the backing of the club. But what they did is they took him out, brought Allison in, and then his head just went. So he left and came back. For me, Klopp is the greatest manager that we in the league today, I think. I'm biased because I'm a Liverpool fan. He's a charismatic manager, and he knows what he wanted. He got a goalkeeping coach the one goalkeeping coach there from Tranmere, brilliant man, but Allison asked for his old goalkeeper coach, Taffarel, to come in, so now they've got Taffarel, which made him the best goalkeeper in the world. For me, Alisson Becker is the best of his angles, probably the second best with his feet to Edison in the world. So we are quite blessed. We've got Keller as a number 2, but our saving grace at Liverpool is Adrian.
Yeah.
Adrian is a goalkeeper that was looking for a third division team in Spain, and Liverpool called him up and asked him if he'd like to come as number 2. He came, and he has just been a sensation with the youngsters and the other people from South America. He looks after them like a professional should do. He's like a father figure, and he helps them out in every way that he can. And he's just a sensation there at Liverpool. And that's down to goalkeepers.
So, y'all watch soccer every weekend, whatever the league it is. You probably go on the YouTube or the Twitter, and you see gaffes every week, right? You can't go a week without a goalkeeper getting the ball, trying to hit it out to his teammate, and the ball goes to the other team, and the ball's in the back of the net. Or he tries to hit a long one, and the offensive player is in his face, puts his foot in there, the ball's in the back of the net. My question to you guys, I'll ask you first, Shaka, is managers are now on this whole high press, progressive football, keep the ball, all this stuff. When are we going to see managers zigging instead of zagging and going back to an older style of football to protect their goalkeeper and to protect their back four?
I think that's coming, to your point, Jason. I think while we try to focus on building the ball out to the back and the high pressure, I think as teams kind of get used to that and are able to play out of that pressure, and you get to realize some of the risks, and maybe the reward doesn't merit the risk that you take with the goalkeeper overplaying. That will change. I'm convinced that will change. or at least it will ease off. It may not go back to my day or Bruce's day where we just kicked it along every single time, but there will come a time where the risk just isn't worth the reward. And I think that's coming. And again, and Bruce mentioned it, especially young goalkeepers. And the difficulty, it's easy enough for Bruce and I, and you talk about gaffes, when we were playing, to make mistakes. And we know that it's a part of the game. We've been there long enough, we made enough mistakes to know that another one is coming. That's all right, we'll deal with it when it does. But for young goalkeepers, that can make or break their mentality, their psychology early on. I was speaking to someone yesterday who introduced himself to me, said his son was a goalkeeper, and I said, oh, you've got the hardest job. The parents of a young goalkeeper is the worst job on the planet. My kids play, a couple of them played in goal for a bit, and I hated every single moment of it.
I played.
Because
it was bad.
Whenever a goal goes in, they think it's their fault. And again, when you have that experience and know better, that's fine. But while you're trying to coach young kids to play the ball out to the back, they make a mistake, it ends up in the back of the net, parents are shouting, the coach is looking at you funny. It can break or make or break these young careers. So I think just in terms of a youth coaching perspective and at the highest level, as teams adjust tactically, the risk doesn't become worth the reward. When you're in trouble, kick it in the stand. That, I think, is already starting to slowly, you're starting to see more and more keepers do that, not take the risk.
Bruce?
I'll reiterate what Shaka has just said. There is a time where the lower leagues have changed to tell the goalkeeper not to play it out of the back. If they play it out and he gets it back, he's going to launch it long. Here's the thing. The people want the goalkeepers to start with the ball at the back. We'll tell the goalkeeping coaches to tell the goalkeepers to catch the ball, then they've got control of the ball. Not parry into the round where it goes back out there. If they catch the ball, they've got control. Then they can play out from the back. When it's a by kick, if there's an area for you to play it, into that area for the player to go forward, play it. If that ball comes back, tell your players it's going to go long. I think that the time will come when the players will do that. And there's no goalkeepers like Edison or Allison that can do that at the back with all the players. Maybe a little bit of Martinez, but he's been caught. Saar, he's been caught. The only ones that haven't really been caught is Edison 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Up until now, he's never lost the ball in there.
Like, I think when I look back on this whole revolution of the position, I think of Manuel Neuer at Bayern Munich, right?
Yeah.
But am I correct? He's a little bit different than what we've seen.
He certainly was a little bit ahead of his time. He played that position naturally before it was a thing. But I think the difference in Manuel Neuer is how good a shot stopper he was. So all of a sudden, while he was making these incredible saves, he was doing these crazy things, certainly crazy at the time in terms of how far off his line he was playing, how far out of his box he would come, the passes he would make. And I think people got a little bit confused in recognizing him as the best in the world, that it was more about his playing outside of the box than it was about his shot stopping. And certainly at his best, I thought he was one of the best shot stoppers in the world. He was one of the best sweeper keepers as well. And there was this shift. And again, that is one goalkeeper in a sea of top-level goalkeepers here. We can't ask every 8 or 9 year old the world over to try to do that. It's kind of silly and will get people in more and more trouble.
Manuel Neuer.
Manuel Neuer, one of the best goalkeepers that's ever played this game. But then you can go through the league. You get Oblak, you got Donnarumma. You've got all these players that play around. And there are so many fantastic keepers around. But do they play out of the back? Some of them do. Some of them will not, and they'll launch it long because they can pass the ball. So for me, the evolution of football, sweeper keeper, yes, I've been a sweeper keeper at Liverpool. I wasn't the first. But when I played there, if I got caught out of the box, which I have many, many times, you will not see another player look at you or talk to you for another week.
Yeah.
You know you're in trouble.
How is the position going to evolve in the future?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. And I say that because I think the basics of goalkeeping remain the same. And I'll go a little bit in more depth here in that while we talk about shot stopping, I think to make it to the highest level, you have to be a good shot stopper. That goes without question. You have to be able to come and take a cross. You have to be able to communicate clearly with your defenders. And a couple of things, and Bruce started to touch on it there. When you're asked to do certain things, I remember my time at Reading, Mark McGee said to me, "Shaka, I want you to come for every single cross." He's like, if you come for 10, you might drop 2, they'll score 1, you'll get to 6, we'll clear 1 or 2. I've lost my for the map. It's like, but I will back you. And the defenders know that that's what you're going to do. So I'm like, fine. And I got a reputation as being one of the strongest in the league at taking crosses. Because once you slung the ball up in the air, I was coming. Because everybody in my defense knew. So they would drop back on the line, they would cover me where it was. So it has to be, while the goalkeeping position evolves, it has to be a kind of holistic approach in that the defense also has to evolve. I think some of the immeasurables you will also see as important. And I'll tell this story, and if you allow me, I've never told Bruce this, I've certainly never told this publicly. A couple of months ago, I saw a clip, Stuart Pearce talking about me as a goalkeeper, saying that one of the things that he loved about playing in front of me was that I was always calm. That when things got a little bit crazy, when we were under pressure, when people were screaming, I always seemed to be the calmest man on the pitch. And I have one person to thank for that. And it's this man to my left. Now, unbeknownst to Bruce, as I say, I've never told this story. Bruce played for Southampton after Liverpool. Southampton is about a 45-minute drive from Reading. Every opportunity I could, I drove to the Dell to see Bruce play. Every time things got hectic, Bruce was the calmest man in the park. Bruce would make this incredible save and get up and fix the divot in the pitch. And it just brought a sense of calm around the team, around the stadium, and it's something that, again, will never make anybody's stats real. It will never, it's impossible to measure until you're playing in that back four, until you're playing in that team. And ultimately, while we'll talk about the evolution of the goalkeeper, I think there are certain things about the position that will stay the same. That when there's a storm brewing around you, you have to be the one standing in the eye.
Bruce, evolution of it.
The evolution of it. I was told by my father, who was a goalkeeper in Rhodesia right back in the 50s. He said to me, you are in charge of your 18-yard box. Nobody in the world can tell you what to do in there. You are the captain, you are the manager, and you can do what you want in that. Unless your manager was a goalkeeper, then he can talk to you. So from there, I took it upon myself, and I did to command that area. Whether I was calm, as Shaka said, I might have looked calm, but inside, I might not have been. And it's just the way the goalkeepers are. Goalkeepers are in a unique position. It is the finest position on the field. We have to be alert 90% of the game. 10% you can mess about because the ball's on the other side. And you have to command the people in front of you. So not only are you a communicator, you have to distribute properly, you have to communicate with the front, and then you've got to be in charge of that area to stop the ball going in the back of the net. Is it a big task? 100%. Is it a thankless task? Sometimes. But we will never change our position for any of the other positions on the park. Correct. Why? Because we do not chase a ball for 90 minutes. We wait for the ball to come to you.
What a great way to wrap it up. The Goalkeepers Union, Bruce Grobelar, Shaka Hislop, give him a big hand. Thank you, everyone.